You've seen it everywhere. The flower of life on their website, sacred geometry tattoos covering their arms, crystalline grids in their healing space. They speak of phi ratios and dimensional frequencies, of Merkabahs and Platonic solids. But what if I told you that spiritual narcissists have weaponized sacred geometry itself? That they're using these ancient patterns not to heal, but to hack your consciousness? Today, I'm revealing the sacred geometry of manipulation, how spiritual predators use geometric principles to create psychological prisons that feel like paradise. This is the video that connects the dots between ancient wisdom and modern manipulation. Because once you understand how sacred geometry affects consciousness, you'll see how easily it can be corrupted to control rather than liberate. By the end, you'll never look at that flower of life pendant the same way again. The power and the perversion sacred. Geometry isn't New Age nonsense. It's the mathematical language of creation itself. From the spiral of galaxies to the hexagon, of honeycomb from DNA's double helix to the golden ratio in your face, geometry shapes reality. Ancient cultures knew this. They used geometric principles to build temples that altered consciousness, create art that opened portals, design spaces that facilitated transcendence. But here's what they also knew. The same patterns that elevate can enslave. The same geometries that open consciousness can lock it. The same mathematical principles that connect us to divine can be inverted to create separation. Spiritual narcissists, consciously or unconsciously, had discovered this dark application dot. They use sacred geometry like a skeleton key to your psyche. Not to unlock your potential, but to lock you into their web. Not to reveal universal truth, but to hide their lies in beautiful patterns. Not to connect you to source, but to position themselves as the sacred center you must orbit around. The Fibonacci trap. Let's start with how they use the Fibonacci sequence and golden ratio. This pattern appears everywhere in nature: shells, flowers, hurricanes. It represents natural growth, divine proportion, perfect expansion. Spiritual narcissists exploit this by structuring their entire manipulation system according to Fibonacci principles. Watch how they escalate commitment. First session, $89. Second, $144. Third, $233. They're not randomly pricing. They're using Fibonacci numbers. Your unconscious recognizes this pattern as natural, making the escalation feel divinely ordained rather than manipulative. They structure their healing programs the same way. 1 day retreat, then 2 days, then 3, then 5, then 8. Each expansion feels natural because it follows sacred proportion. You don't realize you're being led deeper into dependency through geometric progression. Even their love bombing follows Fibonacci timing. 1 text the first day, 1 the second, 2 the third, 3 the fifth, 5 the eighth. The pattern creates a sense of destined connection, of mathematical perfection in your meeting. It's not divine timing, it's calculated manipulation using sacred principles. The Vesica Piscis prison. The Vesica Piscis, 2 overlapping circles, creating an almond shape in the middle, represents the womb of creation, the union of opposites, the birth of new possibility. Spiritual narcissists pervert this into a binding pattern. They position themselves as one circle, you as the other. The overlap, that sacred space of creation, becomes where they feed. Our connection creates something neither of us could access. Alone, they'll say, true in principle, corrupted in practice. They ensure you can never access that creative space without them. Watch their visual branding. Profile pictures where their face sits precisely in a Vesica Piscis. Healing rooms where you sit in overlapping circles. Meditation practices where they guide you to visualize your energy merging with theirs in this pattern. They're not facilitating union with divine. They're creating energetic enmeshment with themselves. The damage is profound. Once locked in, their Vesica Piscis prison, you feel incomplete without them. The creative space you could access alone now seems to require their presence. They've used sacred geometry to create codependence that feels cosmic. Platonic solid programming, the 5 Platonic solids, tetrahedron, cube, octahedron, dodecahedron, icosahedron, represent the building blocks of reality. Each shape holds specific energetic properties. Spiritual narcissists use these as programming devices. They'll have you meditate on the tetrahedron for activation, but they're actually creating sharp, defensive energy that isolates you from others. The cube for grounding, but it's grounding you into their reality matrix, not Earth's. The octahedron for integration, integrating their programming, not your authentic self. Sarah attended a sacred geometry activation workshop. For months afterward, she felt different. Sharper, yes, but also separated from loved ones. More focused, but only on what the teacher suggested. More integrated, but into a reality that revolved around returning for more workshops. She'd been programmed through Platonic solids to fit into the teacher's geometric control matrix. They often combine multiple solids into complex forms, Merkabahs, star tetrahedrons, nested geometries. Each added complexity makes it harder to untangle their influence. You think you're activating light body geometry. You're actually being fitted with energetic shackles designed with mathematical precision. The flower of life deception, the flower of life, overlapping circles, creating a flower pattern, contains all sacred geometry within it. It represents infinite potential, universal creation, divine blueprint. Spiritual narcissists corrupt it into a web with themselves at the center. Notice how they use it. Meditation mats where you sit in specific spots on the pattern. Jewelry they activate that you must wear. Wall art positioned to restructure your space. But look closer. They always position themselves or their symbols at the pattern center. You at the periphery. They conduct flower of life activations where they guide you through the pattern's layers, but always with them as guide, never teaching you to navigate alone. Each circle you explore leads back to them. Each pathway requires their interpretation. They've turned universal blueprint into a maze only they can solve. Marcus used the flower of life brilliantly in his manipulation. His healing center had a massive floor pattern where clients would sit. He positioned himself at the exact center, the genesis point. Everyone else occupied peripheral circles. Energetically, everyone was feeding the center. Geometrically, everyone was subordinate to his position. He wasn't teaching sacred geometry. He was using it to create sacred hierarchy with himself as God. The spiral dynamics of control spirals represent evolution, growth, expanding consciousness. The galaxy spirals, energy spirals, DNA spirals. Spiritual narcissists use spiral dynamics to create dizzying dependency. They structure their teachings in spirals. You think you're ascending, evolving, growing. But notice, their spirals always circle back to them. Each revolution requires their guidance. Each level promises breakthrough, but delivers another loop. You're not spiraling up, you're spiraling around them. Watch their movement patterns. Spiral. Hand gestures that hypnotically draw you in. Walking spiral patterns during ceremony that energetically bind participants. Even their speech spirals. Circular logic that seems profound, but always returns to their authority. They use spiral geometry to create cognitive loops you can't escape. The golden mean spiral, based on the golden ratio, is particularly powerful for manipulation. They'll structure entire healing sessions around it, starting wide with general wisdom, spiraling tighter toward their specific control. By the time you reach the center, you're so geometrically entrained, you can't resist their influence. Metatron's cube and the matrix. Metatron's cube, containing all Platonic solids. Within a complex geometric pattern, represents the blueprint of creation, the map of manifestation. Spiritual narcissists use it as a consciousness trap. They'll teach you to activate your Metatron's cube, but with crucial distortions, missing lines that would connect you to source, extra connections that bond you to them, inverted orientations, that reverse natural energy flow. You think you're accessing creation codes. You're being locked into their distorted matrix. I've seen healers project Metatron's cube onto clients' energy fields, claiming to upgrade their templates. What they're actually doing is overlaying their own geometric programming. The client's natural sacred geometry gets overwritten with the narcissist's distorted version. Breaking these geometric implants requires understanding how they were installed. Jennifer discovered this after years of work with a sacred geometry master. She could only access spiritual states through his specific geometric meditations. When she tried other practices, nothing worked. He'd literally reprogrammed her consciousness, interfaced to only respond to his geometric keys. She wasn't upgraded. She was imprisoned in his geometric matrix, the torus field. The torus, a donut-shaped energy field, represents the fundamental pattern of energy flow in everything from atoms to galaxies. Humans have a toroidal field, with energy flowing through the crown, down through the center, out the base, and back up around. Spiritual narcissists hijack this natural flow. They position themselves at your torus center. Instead of your energy flowing through your own center, it flows through them. They become your axis, your core, your energetic heart. This is why people feel empty without their spiritual narcissist. Their own energy center has been hijacked. Watch how they position themselves during healing. Always at your head or heart, the entry and central points of your torus. They interrupt your natural flow and redirect it through themselves. You leave sessions feeling simultaneously energized and empty because your energy has been cycling through them, not you. They often teach corrupted torus meditations, visualizing your energy flowing, but always with them as part of the circuit, creating unified fields that are actually parasitic connections, teaching you to open your torus in ways that leave you vulnerable to their interference. Breaking the geometric spells if you've been caught in sacred geometry manipulation. Here's how to break free. First, reclaim your center. In every sacred geometric pattern, you are the center of your own reality. Visualize yourself at the center of your flower of life, your torus, your geometric matrix. Eject anyone else from that position. Second, restore natural patterns. Sacred geometry in nature has no intermediary. Study real flowers, shells, spirals. Let natural patterns overwrite the corrupted versions. Your consciousness knows true sacred geometry. Let it remember. Third, simplify before complexity. Spiritual narcissists love complex geometry because it's harder to untangle. Start with simple shapes. A circle with you at center. A triangle pointing up. A square aligned with directions. Build your geometric sovereignty from basics up. Fourth, break artificial connections. Visualize any geometric connections to the narcissist dissolving. See Vesica Piscis separating into distinct circles, Platonic solids returning to your control. Spirals straightening into direct paths to source. Fifth, create your own sacred geometry. Draw your own patterns. Build your own grids. Design your own meditations. Sacred geometry is your birthright. Reclaim it from those who would use it against you. Recognizing geometric manipulation. Here are signs sacred geometry is being used to manipulate rather than heal. They're always at the center. Real sacred geometry has no fixed center. It's infinite. Anyone positioning themselves as the center is creating hierarchy, not healing. The patterns create dependency. True sacred geometry creates independence, direct connection to source. If you need them to access the patterns, it's manipulation, complexity without understanding. They dazzle with complex geometries, but don't teach principles. Real teachers ensure you understand and can work with patterns independently. Rigid interpretation. Sacred geometry is alive, multidimensional, infinite in meaning. Anyone claiming their interpretation is the only truth is using geometry as dogma. Physical, energetic. Symptoms after exposure. Headaches from their geometries. Confusion from their patterns. Exhaustion from their grids. True sacred geometry harmonizes. It doesn't harm. The sacred geometry renaissance we need, a renaissance in sacred geometry, a return to its pure purpose. These patterns exist to connect us directly to universal principles, not to intermediate human authorities. They're meant to liberate consciousness, not imprison it. They should reveal our divine nature, not subordinate it to another's. For those who work with sacred geometry, use it to empower, not control. Teach principles, not dependence. Position others at their own center, not yours. Reveal the patterns in nature, not just your interpretations. Create sovereignty, not subordination. For those seeking, trust your innate recognition of true patterns. Your DNA is sacred geometry. Your energy field naturally flows in these patterns. You don't need anyone to activate what you already are. Learn the principles, yes, but from those who empower your direct connection. Your geometric sovereignty, sacred geometry, is the language of creation, written into every atom of your being. No spiritual narcissist can own it, control it, or position themselves as its gatekeeper. They can only create distorted versions that trap those who don't know better. But now you know. You know how Fibonacci becomes a trap. How Vesica Piscis becomes a prison. How Platonic solids become programming devices. How flowers of life become webs. How spirals become loops. How cubes become cages. How torus fields become parasitic. More importantly, you know these same patterns, used correctly, are tools of liberation. The same geometry that can imprison can free. The same patterns that can program can deprogram. The same mathematics that can manipulate can illuminate. Your consciousness is sacred geometry in motion. Your DNA spirals with divine proportion. Your energy flows in toroidal perfection. Your atoms dance in Platonic precision. You are sacred geometry. No one can activate what you already embody. What geometric manipulation have you experienced? What patterns were used against you? Share below. Your recognition helps others see through beautiful deceptions. And if someone you know is mesmerized by a spiritual teacher's geometric displays, share this video. Sometimes the most sacred act is revealing when sacred has been corrupted. Remember, sacred geometry belongs to all consciousness. Anyone positioning themselves as its keeper is not a teacher, but a thief. Your geometric sovereignty is your birthright. Claim it.